Happy Hump Day, and welcome to Fit Health OF News, bringing you all the latest in health, fitness, and relationship news from across the country. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about current events, including flu updates and even an STD that's been on the rise. In health news, we're going to talk about a lot of health studies, including one about ChatGPT and whether or not it can keep up with traditional therapists. We're going to talk about fitness news, including advice from a male fitness instructor on how to get those muscle gains maximized. And in relationships, we're going to talk about sex injuries and ones that show up in the ER most commonly. And we're going to end on a top 5 list. All right, let's get started. Our top story tonight in current events is that herpes infections are on the rise. New estimates by the British Medical Journal found that by the end of 2024, on a worldwide scale, when looking at people between the ages of 15 and 45, 1 in 5 of that group is infected with genital herpes. So protect yourself. If you're out there, in the world, dating and fraternizing, protect yourself, basically. In other news, snow. If you're in a place where there's snow, I'm in North Carolina, city that doesn't typically get snow, and there's snow. It's snowing hard. So if you're enjoying the snow or not, or you're in a place where there is snow, I hope you enjoy it or protect yourself, because there is a correlation between snow and colds and flu as people go out in the cold, and and there's more germ spread with people indoors. So look out for that. In other news, along the same lines, influenza cases are still pretty high. In late January, the CDC reported that influenza cases were surpassing COVID, and we've kind of been teetering up since then, or at least staying at that same really high level. So influenza is something we're really looking out for. The H1N1 and H3N2 are the predominant types we're looking at this week. And the CDC is classifying this season as high severity based on the data they're seeing. So definitely take a look and basically do your own research and keep a lookout. The death trend for this week is 2.6% for the week ending to February 8th. So hand washing, staying away from sick people, all those things are things that we want to keep doing. In other news, the bird flu, we're still looking at it, but we're not really talking about human transmission for the most part. So it's just kind of something we're keeping an eye on. But I know you're going to see the bird flu a lot in the news, but don't worry too much, because it's not something like influenza or COVID. We're not even close to there yet. So it's a thing, but it's not something we're too worried about. All right. And lastly, in current events, the measles. We've had 2 reported outbreaks, and an outbreak is just defined as 3 or more cases that are basically connected to the same thing. So you hear the word outbreak, I don't want you to think that there's measles everywhere, because it's just not true. As of 2/5, there were 14 reported cases in 5 states. So we're not talking about these massive amount of cases. There's just a little bit of measles happening. So look out for it, basically. It's, protect yourself. Our leading story in health tonight compares ChatGPT to a real-life therapist. They took 830 individuals, and researchers asked them, hey, which response do you think is from a therapist, and which one do you think is from ChatGPT? And the people in the study were only able to be 5% more accurate, they were only able to get it right 5% better with a therapist versus ChatGPT, which is showing that ChatGPT is getting better and better at mimicking, human responses. So, we might be able to get ChatGPT therapy sometime in the near future, but let's stay tuned and find out. We're not quite there yet. In other news, supplements, we all take, or many of us take them, whether it's just a vitamin or for health or fitness reasons. One study found that 75% of us take as many as 75% of us take them. A JAMA report found 6 potentially toxic, things that are in these botanicals that are in these supplements. And the ones that they are pointing out are turmeric, green tea, ashwagandha, Garcinia cambogia, Cambogia, red yeast rice, and black cohosh. And they're saying that some of these, the amount of liver toxicity in these is very mild. So it's almost like, it might not be even much to worry about, but they are pointing out that there is some level of liver toxicity associated with those things that I named here. So it's definitely something to research further if these ingredients are in supplements that you take. In other news, researchers have found in the British Journal of Psychiatry, they found that ADHD, the condition, has been associated with lower life expectancy. And it's not because of the condition itself, really, but because of comorbid conditions and because of unmet needs, things like that. And on average, it says that females could die as much as 8.64 years earlier on average, and males 6.78 years. So this is not just like a year or two. We're talking about a pretty significant amount of time. So if you or someone you love has ADHD, this is definitely something to look into and something to consider. In other news, researchers have seen some dangers associated with air fresheners and scented products, like wax melts and things like that. They found that the nanoparticles that are put out into the air and that we're breathing in when we have these types of products can be as harmful on our lungs or even more harmful than things like gas stoves or car engines. So yeah, that's interesting. So if scent is something we can do without, maybe that's something to consider. So yeah, definitely something to look into further if you have lung problems. And in other news, sports betting is something that's been in the news in regards to health, because we're seeing more and more people seeking help for sports betting addiction. Sports bets have increased actually quite a bit, from $4.5 billion in bets in 2017 to $121 billion in 2023. And the reason for this? Online gambling, more legalization, of course. In 2023, 94% of sports bets were online. So clearly, it's online. The availability and accessibility is increasing sports betting. And since that Murphy versus NCAA case, there were 23% more Google searches for people who were asking, hey, where can I get help for a sports betting addiction, or where can I get help for gambling addiction? There were more of those searches, 23% more since that case. So yeah, definitely if that's something you're facing, please don't feel alone. As we can see here, this is becoming quite a big problem. And just seek out the resources that are available. Today in fitness news, this week researchers have found that we are one step closer to creating biohybrid limbs. Okay, so this is really cool. Basically, one of the issues with making fake limbs or manufactured limbs out of real muscle is that when you take a thick muscle and you try to make it into a manufactured limb, the muscle often dies out pretty quickly. But the researchers, what they did was they took thin muscle fiber and they rolled it together, almost like what you would do with sushi, rolled it all together. And by using thin muscle, it didn't die off like it would with a thick muscle fiber. And so they were able to take these thin strands of muscle, wrap them together, and almost create like a thick muscle out of thin, and then connect it to a 3D printed structure. And it's working sort of starting off working out like a hand. It's not able to, of course, do everything. It's just starting out. But it can play rock, paper, scissors a little bit. It can do the scissor motion. So this is really cool. So we're in the beginnings of seeing the possibility for biohybrid limbs, and they are figuring this out. And this is really, really exciting. All right. In other news, researchers have also found, from the journal Nutrients, they found that probiotics in some ways can actually enhance athletic performance. Basically, because the gut microbiome, we know it helps digestion, metabolism, and immune regulation. They're also looking for other ways that it can help us. And the ways that they're found that it can help maintain gut barrier integrity. It can enhance nutrient absorption, and it can reduce exercise-induced inflammation. And all of these things, combined can help to improve oxygen uptake. It can help reduce inflammation and really just help maintain energy levels. And all these combined can help make for a better athlete and improve performance. And that's really exciting. In other news, a male fitness guru shares tips. This is a gentleman who has become a podcaster and a pretty well-known fitness instructor, and he was recently on the podcast Huberman Lab. It was on an episode of that, and he shared tips that he thinks he has found have improved muscle gains in clients of his and people that he's seen. And one of the big tips he gives is, after your heart rate is elevated during exercise, don't abruptly stop, because that's not going to give you the best results or give you the best heart health. He says to, kind of walk it off a little bit and let your heart slow down, gradually instead of immediately. Another tip he gives is to use muscle relaxation exercises, fast and loose drills, that type of thing, basically so that it can help release the tension, and improve and restore mobility in your muscles so that, you can get the best possible results as well. All right, another study this week has found that the same nerve cells that tell us we're full also make us crave sweets. So that when you're out at a restaurant, you feel super full, but yet you still feel like you have room for dessert, and you're wondering why? That's it. Our lead story in relationships today, ER doctors reveal to the Daily Mail the most common injuries they see in the ER department because of sex and the positions that cause them. So, what do they have to say? Penis injury is one of the more common injuries they see in the ER department, and the positions that are causing them, pretty much anything non-missionary. But the ones that we really need to look out for are things like reverse cowgirl, because we all know that one can really lead to some pain if not done correctly, or if we get too much excitement going. Other injuries and sex acts they say to watch out for are things like sex toys, because they see a lot of problems with things like trapped penis rings, bruised vagina, foreign objects, and heart attack during sex. So sex toys or getting too rough or getting too overstimulated could end up in the ER. In other news, Newsweek reveals why Gen Z and more members of that generation are single than other generations. They used a bunch of different reports and studies and compiled an article that was actually quite interesting and quite telling. 46% of Gen Z is without a partner, and that's pretty significant when compared to other generations. When you look at millennials, for instance, only 28% of them are without a partner. And when you ask, another survey that asked millennials about loneliness found that 8 in 10 members of Gen Z say that they've experienced loneliness over the last year. So, hey, this isn't matching. Wait, they're saying that they experience loneliness. However, they also aren't really looking for partners or aren't, seeking partnership. Why is this? Well, societally, the article kind of found that having a relationship is no longer considered a must. Years past, like, a century ago, or even 50 years ago, or 30 years ago, it was more of a kind of thing that people did. They would, go to high school and, consider a marriage and, a career. It was kind of all packed into one. But somewhere along the way, that marriage thing kind of got thrown to the side. And it was just it kind of became more of a, I'll do it or I'll not do it. Maybe if I feel like it, that kind of thing. Maybe if I find the right person. And the career and all those other things became more on the forefront. But now we're seeing in the data that, the younger generations are partnering less. And, which is, good for them if that's what they want. However, if we're also reporting loneliness, it might not be, so we'll have to see in the future, how this turns out and if this is a good thing or a bad thing, because we don't really know. All right, in other news, Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco purchased a $35 million love nest after their engagement. It's a beautiful home in Beverly Hills, so we all wish them the best. And model Josie Canseco broke up with Johnny Football after less than a year. So sad news, but hopefully they'll both find someone else. This week's top 5 list hits close to home for me. I've been married for about 18 years and things aren't always perfect, but the key to having a happy relationship for this long is putting in the work. And so I wanted to tell you one of the things that we do is put in work to spice up our relationship. So here's the top 5 ways to spice up a relationship. Number 5 is looking your best. And that involves kind of a lot of facets: fitness, getting dressed each day, for me putting on makeup and doing my hair, wearing something cute for my husband, and just being the best version of myself in terms of my looks. Because I want him to see me and be excited to see me and wonder what I'm going to wear that day. And I want to wonder what he's going to look like that day. So I want to be excited to see him and have him be excited to see me. Things like hygiene and just being your fittest, best self. That's one of the bigger keys to spicing up the relationship. Number 4, having more adventures together, whether that's a vacation or just outings that you go on together. Having those adventures that you can talk about and these shared experiences, it's a big key to having that feeling of togetherness. Number 3, things like the couple store and doing role-playing exercises can really, really spice up that adventurous side for you too. And it can really kind of, almost feel like you're having an affair with your spouse. Number 2, sex talk is huge. Basically, just directly telling your partner what you like in the bedroom and then hearing from your partner directly what they like in the bedroom, it makes you excited to try those things with each other. And it also just makes you excited to think about and gives you stuff to fantasize about with your partner. Number 1, more sex. Just having more sex with your partner, period. It really does promote like a sense of closeness. And that's not to say that relationships are just about sex, because it's so far from the truth. But in a good relationship, in a loving, long relationship, having sex a lot can really promote closeness and passion. All right, so those are the 5 ways to spice up a relationship. If you think of any others, add them to the comments. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Fit Health OF News with Erica. I'll see you next week.